Hi, it's Richard Bowser here from Property Investor News magazine, and I'm here at London's Excel Centre for the Property Investor Show. I'm here today with Paul Mahoney from Nova Financial. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So we're on the second day of the Property Investor Show. It's a very well attended show this year. How have you found the show yourselves?
We found it very good. Yeah, yesterday was very busy and spoke with a lot of people that were very much interested in our service, which is great. And had a couple of seminars, and today seems to be a very similar day. So yeah, it's all going really well.
Yeah, good. Certainly reflected in some of the comments from other exhibitors at the event, and we've seen ourselves. So it's good to see that the sector is thriving, given the sort of attendance at the show, despite George Osborne and Co.'s attempts to sort of derail buy-to-let. On that point, really, you provide financial products for buy-to-let and for property investors. Just get a little bit more explanation about the company and what you do.
Yeah, so financial products is part of what we do. We are mortgage brokers. That's one of our core services. The other core service is actually advising on property investment. So we meet with clients, put together a criteria for them, and we source properties from the market and do all the research and due diligence on their behalf. Essentially help guide clients through the whole process and enable them to make a more confident and educated investment.
Okay, so it's a bit of a one-stop shop.
Yeah, an end-to-end advisory service. Yeah.
Okay, and is it London South East, or you operate all over the UK?
We cover the whole country. Most of our clients are London-based, but in fact, most of them have been investing in places like Manchester and Liverpool lately, the Northwest. Going back to what you mentioned about the changes, we've noticed a big shift,
Yes.
sort of away from high-value, low-yield assets
Yes.
toward, low-value, high-yield assets.
Yes, yes, and in terms of the Northwest, you mentioned specifically Manchester, and we've got HS2 going up there in the years to come. Airport City, 11,000 jobs being created. So there's a lot happening in some of the regions now, which are obviously impacting on property values and on the investment opportunities.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's hard to ignore billions of pounds of infrastructure spending and massive job growth, massive economic growth that's happening in both Manchester and Liverpool at the moment.
So you've been doing some talks here today at the show?
Yeah, I did a talk today on how to retire through property investment, focused on sort of the types of properties and the types of returns that suit different stages of life. Mm-hmm. I did a talk yesterday on buy-to-let fundamentals, mistakes and changes. Both seem to have been quite well received, which was nice.
Yeah, no, good. It's always good to get good feedback from a room attendance rather than rotten tomatoes being thrown.
Exactly right.
So not that I've had any of those myself over the years, but no, seriously, it's good to hear that you're getting good feedback. I mean, typically the type of clients that come to you, are they sort of relatively hands-off? They wanting to sort of...
Yeah, I suppose so. We do tend to focus more on passive styles of investment. That's on the property side of things, but we work with a very broad range of people on the finance side of things.
Yes.
Developers, people looking more hands-on. Our target client base is quite broad though. We deal with first-time investors through to high net worth and pretty well everyone in between.
Right.
I suppose the terminology we use for our clients is mostly mum and dad investors.
Yeah, sure.
People looking to provide for retirement, they're looking for some guidance or some clarity on what they should do. All these changes that are coming into the market, I think, really sort of accentuate the need for advice.
Absolutely.
In what was previously a very DIY industry.
Yeah.
So it's good that we're able to provide that confidence and that clarity to our clients.
Well, there's no doubt that some of the regulatory changes, licensing, it's a more complex market, and therefore, for professional service providers like yourself, to be able to add that value to impart the knowledge based on your own experiences, obviously that's a positive. You mentioned earlier about the financial side. As a broker, what sort of changes have you seen in the last sort of year or so? In terms of buy-to-let and people's approach towards you, and how lenders themselves are reacting.
Yeah, well, obviously the big change was in January, where the Bank of England mandated the serviceability requirements. Again, it goes back to what I mentioned before about the need for yield.
Yes.
It's hitting places like London and the South East quite hard because people that follow the old strategy of buying solely for growth and just breaking even are finding that often they can't borrow what they owe, given these new changes.
Yes.
So I think over the next couple of years, as people go to remortgage, a few people are going to be shocked by that.
Yeah, no, quite.
And I think that's a bit of a risk actually for London and the southeast. That potentially people are going to have to make the choice as to whether to put more cash in or sell. Again, places that are higher yielding doesn't have that much of effect on, because you can serviceability requirements, even the new rules, you can still borrow more than enough.
Indeed, yeah, no, and this is it. I think, I can completely concur with what you're saying, that yield is now the determining factor. And also, again, you've underlined what other people have said to me, that there are people with stock in London and the southeast where perhaps they may be overgeared, and then getting a low yield, it hasn't been doing much more than washing its face. They've not been repaying down debt, and therefore, consequently, when they look to try and do a remortgage, because they've got increased equity, perhaps, they're in a more difficult situation.
Yeah, exactly. I think you add to that the compounding factor of the changes to the way mortgage industry is being treated from a tax perspective.
Yes.
I think I'd go as far as to say the vast majority of the people probably don't know how that's going to affect them. But when they will notice is when they do their tax returns.
Yes.
So you put those two things together, and that there's potentially a bit of risk in the market in those lower yielding assets.
Well, I think it's just all the more reason for people to be educated and understand what's going on. So coming along to events like the Property Investor Show, reading my magazine, Property Investor News, talking and with service providers like yourself, keeps you informed and educated about the marketplace, and gives you perhaps a better understanding of the choices that you've got to make.
Exactly right.
Yeah, great. Well, Paul, listen, really interesting to chat to you here today at Excel at the Property Investor Show. It's Richard Bowser, Property Investor News, and I'm here with Paul Mahoney of Nova Financial. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Richard.